Hello everyone, welcome back. So this weekend I played in the Lotus Box 1.5K. I ended up taking second place, which is a nice little, victory. I think that the Gyruda deck is definitely the best deck right now. I'm recording this right before the Monday companion announcements, so it'll be interesting to see what the changes are and how badly that will affect this deck. I honestly think if it's something like just put one card from your hand on the bottom of your library, like it will hurt the deck, but maybe not enough to completely destroy it from the metagame. We'll have to see. Anyway, that's besides the point. What I'm bringing you today is another game review. This one is going to be less strategically deep than my previous game review, which was of a Snowco mirror. This is going to be Gyruda versus Snowco, and I'm really just highlighting this because it was kind of an insane series of events that I wanted to share with you all because it was pretty, pretty crazy. And I think this deck is very good. It might be a little too good for Legacy, but it certainly leads to some crazy games, which I will hope to demonstrate here. So this is game 3. Unfortunately, the replay for game 1 glitched out, which is really, really too bad because that game was pretty insane too. My opponent had cast their Urian, and I had used 2 of my clones to copy it back and forth. So like I would have one clone become Urian, flick out the second clone, and then it would come in as Urian. And one of them was a Spark Double, so they weren't legendary at all. And it would keep coming back. This is how I was like gaining card advantage and like stalling the board and like resetting my guys that had been elked or something like that. It was insane. Unfortunately, Urian glitches whenever he comes into play and flickers and abundant growth. So can't show you that one. But this is game 3. We're 1-1. My opponent's on the play. He's playing Urian Snow. All right, so first off, this is the opening hand. This is kind of close for a keeper mulligan. It has Defense Grid, which is one of the best cards in the matchup, and it also has Cavern, which is another one of the best cards in the matchup. So I think it's not an emphatic keep, but I think it's a keep. Your goal is to try and play a long game in the matches against Force of Will, and so this is not the most ideal hand, but we'll draw mana. It'll be fine. So I decided to keep. I'm also on the draw, which helps a little bit. So my opponent ponders. On my turn, I draw a City of Traders, which makes me decide to play the Defense Grid on turn 1. I think I would have been a little hesitant if I had not drawn another mana source to waste the Lotus Petal there. But because I drew one, I think it's a good play. My opponent has a Force Negation for it, but now they're down to 3 cards in hand, so that's fine. I could have gone Chrome Mox, Imprint, and then play Metamorph, and then Imprint on Dax Duplicate. Then I'm out of cards in hand. I don't know if that's the right play. It was something to consider. I draw a Thought Not Seer. My opponent has the swords for the Thought Not Seer. Their hand is pretty bad. It's Terminus, Meddling Mage. I take the Meddling Mage. Leave him with a Valk plus Terminus. They don't do anything on their turn. It's possible they didn't draw something good. Dax Duplicate is a nice draw. It lets me potentially cast this other duplicate later in the game. Now I do decide to do the Chrome Mox play. Because I know my opponent's hand is like not very good, so I'm fine kind of spewing my hand out to play Gyruda the next turn. My opponent plays Astrolabe. They draw, play a land, play Oko. They elk my Chrome Mox, which is a very good play because it's keeping me off 6 mana. And they elk's the right one. They cut me off red mana. I draw another Chrome Mox, which is great. Again, their only card in hand is Terminus. So I'm feeling in very good shape. Play the Gyruda. And then unfortunately I just whiff. And not only do I whiff, I mill my opponent's So that's really, really bad for me. not only do I wayfield my opponent's Uro, but then they top deck a Terminus, which is really awful for me because now they can play Terminus and escape Uro this turn. My opponent makes a ginormous punt and elks this Astrolabe, either tapping it for green to cast Uro and elking it first, or I think even better is just, again, elking one of my Chrome Moxes to keep me off 6 mana, because I could top deck another Gyruda. Both those plays would have been better than elking the Astrolabe and just not getting Uro or cutting me off mana. And sometimes Magic is a justice game because I top deck Gyruda and then I play it. And I know, again, his last card in hand is Terminus. So, again, this is really good for me. I mill over the Dragonlord Kolagon, which I don't want to get right now because it's not lethal. And if they just draw a land, then they can Terminus my board. And then I have nothing. And then they have a Uro to escape the next turn. So I'm dying very quickly. So I decided to just keep the chain going. Hope to find like a Thought-Knot Seer or a way to discard our hands. But I whiff again. I get 2 copies, but then the next one whiffs, and I have to get back an Icefang Coatl, which draws me the 3rd Gyruda. So it was 1 card off from keeping the chain going. But still, this is not good for me. Luckily, my opponent does not draw the land for Terminus. They draw a Ponder. They Ponder again. And then they end up drawing a land and escaping the Uro. So I'm going to need to top deck a mana source here, most likely, because my opponent will probably elk something. At least this was my thought at the time. So Uro draws, but then they elk the 7/7, and they still leave me with 6 mana, which, to be fair, getting the 3rd Gyruda is not likely, but I was still very happy that they did what they did. So I'm playing the 3rd Gyruda of the game. We'll see if this one whiffs. The really important thing to note, though, is that the Dragonlord Kolagon was milled earlier, so these are not going to be hasty guys at any point. If I had hit a Dax duplicate and I'd already had a Spark Double in play, then I could be making a bunch of Gyrudas with haste, but I don't. The cards are not in the right order. So yeah, there's a Dax duplicate here, but no Spark Double. I do get it a little bit late, which means that I don't quite have lethal. I find the Sire. I only have 3 cards left in the library, so I know that I'm not going to be able to deck him. He has 15. And I didn't show this on the replay, but I milled 1 other Terminus, and the 1 in hand is going to be discarded. So I get back the Sire. I have an attack that's not quite for lethal. So what I decided to do is send the Flyers at Oko, and then attack him. So he's down to 8. We both discard our hands, so he has no cards left in hand. And then he top decks the last Terminus, which is actually insane. But because I only have 3 cards left in the library, and Terminus lets you stack the order that you put the cards in, I basically get to stack my library here. And earlier in the game, the Terminus had put another Gyruda at the bottom. So there's a Gyruda in 2 cards that my opponent is going to have to deal with. So even after top decking Terminus, the last Terminus, it probably is not enough. So let's see. I draw Thought-Knot Seer, play it. Take the Abundant Growth. Got nothing to do. Opponent attacks with Uro. That's all well and good. And so I've never stacked the bottom of my library before, but I did take the time to figure out how it worked, and I did stack it correctly. So I put the Gyruda 4 cards down from this one, so that even if he has drawn like a Swords to Plowshares or a Pyroblast, this Gyruda will mill into another one. My opponent cycles a Wilt. I don't think that was... actually, it ended up not mattering. So they were looking for like their last card. So I get to hit 2 more clones, mill him down to 0 cards, and then with the last card in my library, I bring back a Restoration Angel, flicker this Thought Knot Seer, which causes him to draw a card, and lose the game. So that was just absolutely an insane game in my opinion. Just double Gyruda whiff, keep top decking them. My opponent chooses not to take me off 6 mana. The third one finally, gets a good board going and gets us to discard our hands. Opponent top decks the last Terminus in the deck, but because my deck is so small, I just get to stack the bottom of my library, and it ends up not mattering. And then with my last card in library, I get to flick this Thought Knot Seer and, have them draw with no cards in library. So that was pretty sick. Like I said at the start, this deck leads to some sick games of Magic, which, I don't know. I have been kind of at a dead end as far as fair decks and Legacy go. I can't really seem to play or build one that I've liked against a lot of the metagame. So this has been a very fun change of pace for a while. And again, we'll see what happens on Monday. Anyway, that's all for now. Bye, guys.